Government says small businesses are key to growing the economy and creating much needed jobs, but all too often we hear of them struggling to get government to actually pay them.
Well, some are even forced to close down. So let's find out exactly what the situation is from Public Services Commissioner Anele Gxoyiya. Thank you so much, Anele, for your time this morning. Let's talk a little bit about this reality. I mean, we have heard government talk time and time again about how we need to start focusing on a 30-day payment, especially when it comes to small businesses, because of the type of pressures that they're under. But this is not actually translating on the ground, and one wonders exactly where's the problem. Is it because they don't have money in government departments, or is it just a lack of just consciousness to the realities of the small business?
Thank you very much, and good morning to the listeners of the viewers of ENECA. My simple answer can be to say that it's just a total disregard of instructions from the officials. These problems, according to our own findings, they happen at different levels. They happen at the entry level at supply chain, where some of the officials, for some reasons known to them, they keep some of these invoices and they don't process them because they expect something from the service providers. We have picked that up and we are following up because we want to get to the heart of it. And secondly, the other area that we have also picked up is that at the level of senior managers, there seems to be, especially when there is a transition from one head of department to the other, the one that comes in seems to want to question the decisions of the predecessor, which is also a serious problem because you don't investigate contracts that you have found in the department. You proceed with the payment thereof. If the contracts were wrong, it's not for you to determine, but it is for the law enforcement agencies to determine. So those are the two areas where we think there are problems. But also there is a weakness on the other side from the suppliers, where some of them do not understand in terms of the submission of their invoices. At times they submit wrong invoices and they get turned back. And that becomes a delay as well in relation to that. So there are multiple challenges that relate to that. And those are the issues that we have decided as the Public Service Commission that we need to get into them and follow them up.
Mr. Gxoyiya, I'd like to touch on the second factor that you mentioned, that when there is a transition between management, you get the new manager or the person who is responsible for all things, payments at least. They want to come in and first investigate and sort through the contracts that are before him before making the payment, and you're saying that that is usually an issue. That's what usually then delays these payments. And perhaps you're saying, a suggestion at least from you I'm hearing, is that come in and make the payments. Yours is not to come in and investigate the contracts that are on the table, but then they would say to you, you are calling for for us to be thorough, for us to not be making payments to people that don't deserve them, contracts that maybe were given or awarded underhandedly. And what then would you say to that? They're saying that we are trying to be thorough and we're making sure that we are killing out corruption by making sure that the contracts that are there before we pay them are the right kind of contracts.
The point I'm raising is that there's work that has been done. Whether the contract is right or the contract is wrong, but there is work that has been done and that work must be paid for. And there is a contract that was entered into that is in front of you. If the contract is wrong, there are processes to follow in terms of the wrong contracts. But if you find a contract halfway through and you just decide not to pay without having established the facts, because we have seen many small businesses who have been deprived payments, and that has affected the operations of the businesses, not because of their own liking. Remember, these people don't give themselves contracts. They get given contracts by the departments. And unfortunately, as a head of department or as an accounting officer, you are liable for the decisions that were taken by your predecessor. But reviewing those decisions can't be just an instinct from yourself as a manager. You need to follow the necessary processes. You can't, 3-4 months down the line, people are still struggling to get their payments because every month you question the same contract. Every month you question the same contract, but ultimately you pay it, but you pay it late. So to us as the Public Service Commission, it doesn't make sense. If you don't pay the contract because you think it was wrong, then don't pay it and account for it, but don't pay it late. That's the point that we are raising. Okay. So that's where we are saying there is a problem with some of the managers in that they selectively pay contracts late. Some of the contracts get paid on time that were entered into by the same predecessors. So you start to ask yourself, what is the reason why these others are not paid and the others are paid?
You know, as I'm looking through this as well, Anele, Water and Sanitation Department appears to be a very big repeat offender, failing to pay 12.5 million rand to 32 suppliers in April alone. So when you're reading statistics of this nature, and even with a certain department that has been really cast a spotlight in, you wonder exactly what is happening within that particular department. We know that when it comes to water and sanitation, it's a very contentious time for them. They have to still build infrastructure, they have to procure, and a lot of these projects that they were supposed to be doing are actually delayed. So then if a person is basically contracted to the Water and Sanitation Department, they're owed money, what then do they do? I mean, how do they strong arm? What do they do just to get the money that they work for?
We have advised service providers to approach the Public Service Commission when they are not paid within 30 days. So that as the Commission were able to follow it. As things stand, we wait for a report from Treasury, and we get those reports from Treasury on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, but then we consolidate them on a quarterly basis. So that, to me, takes long, other than the suppliers coming to us and saying, Young, we are owed by this department, so that we can be able to follow up with the department in terms of where the problems are. So that if the problem is at the supply chain, because some of the heads of department or accounting officers, I can tell you that they are innocent in this thing. Because supply chain officials are frustrating these suppliers for some reasons known to them. So if we are able to find where the invoice is in the supply chain, then it's always better for us so that we can be able to make recommendations that there should be consequence management against those who have who are misrepresenting the department by failing to pay service providers in time. I always make an example that the Public Service Commission is also compelled to pay within 30 days. But we've been improving all the time, and we commend our leadership, our management in the Public Service Commission. For example, I can tell you, on the 22nd of September, which is 2 weeks back, if I'm not mistaken, on a Thursday, we had a function that we had in the Northern Cape, in a small town called Mir. Those service providers who submitted invoices a day after the activity were paid last week, Wednesday, which was within even 5 days. Now, if the Public Service Commission can do that, it means every other government department can do it. There is just no will to comply. Hence, we are moving further to say there should be action taken against those officials in those departments, so that we can be able to see progress in terms of the payment of suppliers, because this thing kills businesses. Yeah. These late payments, they kill small businesses, and many businesses have closed down. Others are still struggling to pay debts, whilst they are struggling on the other hand to deliver services. Because many of the small businesses they make loans in order to deliver a service,
Yeah.
with the hope that when they get paid, they will settle their loans. So that's the problem we're sitting.
No, it certainly is a problem, and one that we hope government, of course, does manage to deal with, especially in this particular case where we're bringing the story forward, the Water and Sanitation Department. Mr. Gxoyiya, thank you so much for speaking to us, of course, on the South African Morning. That is Anele Gxoyiya, who is a Public Service Commissioner.